Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of podcast Way Out of Childhood Trauma. I am the Barb Varclova from Your Step Counseling with the program Trauma Response Reprogramming, and here with me is the Danijela Mrdak from Mind Freedom Therapy. And our today topic, it's very serious, but we want to make it almost as kind of like mastermind or some kind of really info for people. Because our today's topic it's related to the violence witnessed by children, and we hear it in the news often about shooting or stabbing in schools or violence in schools or in an environment where our children. And I'm personally very horrified every time when I hear that, and it's why we decided to make this episode on topic how to help children. So I would want to ask Lela, like, what is your how you see these moments when children witnessing or are part of the violence events in their life?
In this episode dedicated to children. It is really very sad to see how children feel when they experience traumatic events like terrorism, man-made disasters, war, shootings, global pandemic, or natural disasters. And they feel affected in a very profound way because they lose this feeling of safety, and especially when they experience mass shootings at school, they lose the feeling that school is a safe place. And when they go back home and they have lots at home, they also don't find a safe place there. So children are in a very, very high risk of potential thinking about suicide, or they turn to drugs or high risk behaviors. Depending, of course, on their age, they respond differently in elementary schools and adolescence. But they do feel guilt. They might feel survival guilt because they have survived certain crises and their neighbors or friends or relatives, family members haven't. So they feel a lot of anxiety. They have problems with concentrating, problems with sleeping, with nightmares, and they startle easily, which is also a significant symptom that they have experienced trauma. And sometimes they don't want to discuss about trauma with their parents. And on other occasions, they're talking to everyone because they're so frightened, and they're trying to find someone who can give them empathy, compassion, and reassure them that this world can be a safe place again. So I think that child's stress means that reactions to trauma interfere with their daily life, their ability to function and to interact with other people. In general, the symptoms can develop gradually, slowly, or the symptoms can be invisible. That's why many caregivers, parents, grandparents, teachers need help, and we should provide them with that help or advice. And I'm very happy that today we can share some fundamental information about how to handle the crisis and emergency situations. And I would also love to hear your opinion about this topic, Barb.
Yeah, I think that it's very important to go to the beginning, what is actually happening in that event. And we often speak about trauma, but trauma itself, it's a reaction on the event. It's not that event itself, what happened to the child, but how the child processed it, how the child or adult dealt with that. And when it's any for example, violent attack or mass shooting or any violent attack in school or in other environment, the child naturally go to the survival mode. The mind will just swap up to the survival mode, and the child will start reacting from that level of I need to survive, and it will also be affected on their brain function, that their brain will start make the signals very active, amygdala very, very active, all senses to listen, smell, hear everything, and also will be start producing very high level of cortisol and adrenaline to this fight mode and run mode and just protective mode. And so when we speaking about trauma, we want to go even like before that. We want to speak today about what to do to prevent developing trauma, because trauma is the trauma response on event. But when we take the steps, since the event happened in that first days and first weeks with children, they don't have to necessarily developing trauma response, because it's about how they, as the individuals, process that experience they had, and how they learn from it and how they can move forward, so they will not get to that disconnection of the parent. They will not get stuck in that event, and the trauma responses doesn't necessarily need to be developed. So when the trauma response is already developed, then we need to take actions to work with them, and we need to help them to release the trauma. But it's really important that they are possible to stop it. There we don't have to necessarily say it would happen, but it's really important to look on at what is happening in that time. So when the child or adult, but the child very extensively facing about that, the first emotion which will come is fear, which is natural. We all will be afraid. If will come fear, then will also come anger, because anger is energy which is helping us to protect ourselves. So that will going to that reaction. If it will be run, hide, froze, scream, that will go from that reaction of anger. And if they are processed, if they are released, if they are expressed, then the child can see that experience as something which happened in their life and how they moving forward. If these emotions are not processed, if they are stuck, if they are suppressed, then it starts developing that trauma response. So it's why really important this first moments and first weeks after any crisis, whatever that type of crisis it is.
Yes, and it's very interesting how you said about the meaning that children give to the crisis and situation they have experienced, and it's connected to how the brain is hardwired to respond to emergencies in a very specific way, because this fear response means that brain is encountering something very traumatic that may be dangerous, and the brain just disattaches, the reptilian brain disattaches from the emotions and turns on the strategy to survive, the survival mode. And they feel this flight or fight response. So the body releases biological molecules that change things in the body as well. And they also feel increased heart rate, sweating, hyperfocus, and the hyperfocus of the attention. And among the most significant changes, several parts of the cortex begin to shut down. The frontal lobe goes first, affecting our functions and the ability to plan, to judge, to process problems, and to verbalize. So kids cannot process the language, and when we speak to them, when we tell them, give them kind of advice or information what to do, they don't listen because they cannot process what we're saying to them. And when we ask them, how do you feel? Talk to me. What is your name? Tell me where you are. How old are you? What is the day today? They have problems to verbalize it because their body and brain responds immediately to trauma. So they have problems to regulate their emotions as well. And the best way to approach children in this situation is to look at their eye, talk softly, and ask them what is your name, call them by their name, and tell them that now they're safe, you're the adult, you know ways how to help them, and you can explain them, introduce them a way that you're going to help them, where they can go to feel safe, and make them feel that alone in the world, because they are dependent on adults, and when crises happen, they have no idea or life experience what to do. And sometimes they're physically very small and they cannot escape. So the feeling that they cannot escape physically or mentally or emotionally is very devastating, disabilitating, and it creates the feeling that they're helpless and hopeless and powerless. So can you, Barb, tell me something about how can we help children not to feel these feelings of helplessness and powerlessness? How can we first help them and encourage them?
I think that what's very important is to acknowledge that feelings they have, and find a way how we will allow them to express them. Yeah, that is very important reaction of the adults, and especially the parents, because same as with the children, when they are afraid, then will come anger, and if the parents they would get scared for their children, then very often will come also that anger that wants to protect them, wants to take care of them. But it's very, very important for adults and parents to work with that, and they're realizing it, that if they express that anger, they actually scaring that child even more, because the child doesn't understand. The child will see that they are angry to him or her, that they did something wrong, that it's their fault, that they was there or something happened. So it's really, and in that moment, parents are not that safe place, because when they are angry, they are actually dangerous to their children. So it's really important to realize that they are scared. If they realize that they are scared, they can connect with that child feeling of scared, and then both can release it. And that's what elevating children from that. If they realize it's okay to be scared. It was terrifying situation, but now you are safe. I was also scared, so I have that power. I wanted to protect you, and I'm here for you now. So it's really important that when we're not doing in the first time, and children didn't get the chance to express their emotions, we can actually do it. It's one of the techniques which parents or caregivers or even teachers can do with the children after event like that, so which is traumatizing. And it's to recognize if the child has that emotion, is not expressing. If they are angry, you can tell them, can I be angry with you? And express that. If they are sad, can I be sad with you? And all that. Really connect with them, acknowledge, allow them to have that emotion, and not try to tell them, oh, it will be all okay, it will be all fine, because it's just mean that we're telling them what do you feel, it's not real, what do you feel, it's not right, and they will just start suppressing it. We need to tell them what you feel is right, because you feel it, so that's okay. And that and the method, which is like, can I be with you? It's really working because we can really go down on that level of the child and connect with them. And it's actually very therapeutic also for the adults who are doing it, because of course, even adults are affected with what's happened to the children. And when we start reconnecting with their feelings, we connecting with our feelings, and we can release them and realizing that that's happened, but that was event in the time, and we are not in that moment now, and also release ourselves from that moment. So it's really important to let them express that emotions, but also it's very important to give them comfort and react for their actually bodily requirements after traumatic events, because all that what's happened in their brain, all hormones created in their body, all that reaction is very, very tiring. So they are in the state of shock, and so it's really good to give them some safe place, warm drink, and let them rest even for several days. Just let them be, not force them to some routine, not force them to do something they don't want to, because they are exhausted. They are really very tired because their body was flushed with very high level of hormones. And we can compare it to, like, if you will go and run the marathon without being trained to be marathon runner, and you will just go and run the marathon, how exhausted that child is. And that's also important in that care for them, the realization that they have the right to feel weak, right to be tired, and not start putting any labels on or you should be stronger, or you should be that. No, allow them to actually be children and process it. They didn't deserve to go through that. They didn't wanted to go through that. They got to that situation, but by not own choice, and we need to give them chance to actually recover and process it. So so that's important. What would be your tip, Lala, for parents, what they could do with the children to help them?
I think one very important aspect after crisis happens in a community is that parents should reduce exposure to media and the news about the disaster, because it is traumatizing the children again. They're reliving the events and the trauma as if it's happening right now, and their body responds in the same way. So parents should actually encourage their children to ask questions about what happened, why it happened, and the parents should explain them what was on the news and what is the truth and what is not, and to reduce this exposure because it's harmful. And very often, children suffer through smaller but equally devastating emergencies, like bullying at school and community violence, racial violence, and it is very important to acknowledge that kids can have a lot of trauma, and they hide it from their parents because they don't want to worry their parents. And parents should also expect that after a crisis occurs, that children may experience the sense of loss of security and routine. So this comes from the sense of permanency, gives them the belief that they are safe and good when they have a routine. But when they lose this, it's common that children just want to be by themselves, and they're asking themselves about the world they knew and the world that was once safe place, but it's not anymore. So disasters can also increase family conflict, family violence, arguing, and also mental health problems, substance abuse, alcohol, drugs. And parents should be aware of this. And even the children who are not directly impacted by the crisis, like school shooting, natural disasters, terrorism, can also be afraid and feel this fear because it is because of the media exposure. It's available online. They can get information very easily, and parents should work with their children at home, because if children feel neglected at home, if they feel that they don't have a voice, that they're not seen or heard, they're gonna, be very disappointed, and they're not going to want to uh, talk to anyone else outside of the home, because they will think, if my parents don't love me enough, help me, how could I trust anyone else, like teacher, caregivers, neighbors or grandparents? And sometimes kids have problems to verbalize and explain their experience of trauma. And depending on their age, if they're adolescents or elementary school or younger age, um, parents can encourage their kids to express themselves creatively
Mm-hmm.
about their trauma. And sometimes children will disassociate from trauma. When you tell them to paint the traumatic event, they're going to paint something beautiful because they're disassociated and they have created a safe place in their mind. Uh, you can uh, you can encourage your children to use drawing, painting, sculpt with clay, depending on their age. And you can start this exercise with kids by asking them to draw or write what they feel today, what they dreamed last night, and to draw a person who makes them feel comfortable and safe,
Mm-hmm.
and create a conversation about that, about this exercise, because kids love to play, they love to be creative, and you can have a chance to speak more openly with your children and give them even more safety, connection, love, and the emotions that they need in this moment. Um, and I would love to ask you, Barb, what would you advise parents or caregivers? How could they take care of themselves better to give a better support to their children?
Yes, and the main thing is that realization of their own feelings, yeah? Because there are reasons behind them. Usually, the most common feeling it's anger, which is caused by that fear, but behind that is that feeling of helplessness that wasn't there, wasn't able to protect them. And and then it's often related to that own feeling of own capability to cope. Am I strong enough? I'm not enough. I'm failing because feeling as the failure that wasn't able to protect children or be in their presence. And that often stem from their own experiences as children. So that is important for them to realize that what is reality, and same as they would try or should try to allow children to process what's actually happened for them as the individual. They should realize what's happened for them, and even, for example, map the day when it's happened. Like, really, in the morning I woke up, I have this for breakfast, how it was actually a very normal day until something happened, and then what that emotions were when they came, and realizing that they wasn't able to do anything. They wasn't there. It's not their fault. It's not that they did something wrong. It's just happened. And even when we see it as very, of course, negative event in life, everything in the universe is actually neutral. It's just how we react to it. So we don't have to love it, but we can get to that neutral point of view and saying, like, yeah, it happened. I did my best to support my children. I was afraid. I feel like this and I feel like that, but start realizing that it wasn't something they was able to influence, and taking off that expectation on themselves, what they should do, could do, would do, because they are all just creating that. Why it is important is that because when the parents are not able to process their own emotions, they are very much projecting these emotions to their children. So then children doesn't feel safe to tell their parents. And exactly as you said, they don't want to bother them, because when they see that parents are overwhelmed with these feelings, they don't feel safe to go to them and speak with them. But admitting these feelings to children, it's actually very powerful, because when we are admitting to them that we were scared, they're realizing that it's all right to be scared. When we admit that we are angry because we feel hopeless, they're realizing, oh, I also feel angry because I feel hopeless, and that's actually right. It's okay. Feel like that. So then they can process it. In the moment when parents staying in these emotions, they disconnecting from the emotions from children, and they don't feel safe. Sometimes parents would say, oh, my child coping with it very well. They are quiet and they are not speaking about that. It didn't affect them. So I would just want to warn parents that if your child not speaking about traumatic event that happened and seems like, oh, that's act like normal, that's not healthy reaction. It's just mean that the child disconnected from what's happening, and in that case, you would really should make a conscious effort to make the child to process it or seek professional help, because that's just mean that the child suppress it. That's just mean that they put it down, because even if the child is brave, courageous, and it's deal with that nice, they would speak about that. They would say that they feel brave. They would say that they feel that they cope well, and that they are happy that they survive and stuff like that, or they would admit that they was afraid, but they was brave and went through it. So if the child not speaking about events, it's actually a very warning sign that the child it's dissociating. But also
Yes.
that is the way. Again, the other technique which I would recommend the parents, which can help them and to help their children, is ask the children to speak about what's happened from a really, really their point of view, not what was telling on the TV, not event itself, like somebody shoot somebody, stuff. Now, what you did? You went to school or you went somewhere in the morning, and going really almost minute by minute what's happened and how it's happened, and then show them on their reactions. If they would say, oh, I started running somewhere, or I hide somewhere, or I frozen, show them that it's actually amazing, that they are actually strong, that it's their mind working amazingly, because perfectly are supposed to switch to the survival mode and keep them alive, and that they are actually strong. And it's helped them to reconnect with that feeling of safety. It's helped them reconnect with that feeling that they can trust their intuition, that they can trust their instincts, and that yes, I did survive. I am strong. I am capable. I am worthy, so, and in the same way the parents can do that. And if they feel like paradoxically, trauma is often not exactly what happened, but the reaction around which happened. And when we start speaking with children or with adults, if they get stuck in some trauma response, it's what they would like to happen, so that they would say, nobody was there for me, or I hope that somebody would came and take me from there. So that's the question which we can ask children, and let them describe the event which happened, and ask them what they would want to happen, instead of what happened. And often they would not say that they would not want to happen that event itself, because they very well realizing that it's not in their power. But they would say, oh, I would want you to be there, or I would want to be able to run quicker, or I would want to come Superman to swoosh and take me from there. And that it's technique which allows them to rewrite the story, because you can encourage them and say, okay, let's make it happen, and retell the story in the new way that happened, that somebody was there for them, somebody came for them, or show them that they were strong, and I'll tell them, oh, you didn't really need that, because you was actually so strong, you managed to do that by yourself. Yeah. And it's about that we can rewrite, we can say it a different way, we can rewrite the story what happened, because it's all just our interpretation of that experience. It's not what our each of every individual on the earth, it's a different reality we're living in, because we all see it just from our point of view. So we can rewrite it, our point of view on it, so the children can do that, and parents or carers or counselors can do it with the children, allow them say what they would want to happen, how they would want to write that story, how they would write that story. And that's technique which allow them to be reconnected back with their power, with their feelings.
This is fantastic technique, Barb. Thank you for sharing this. This is amazing, and I think every parent should be inspired to try this and use it, because they can have instant results. And one of the things that parents do when they see that their child is behaving differently after experiencing trauma, they always say, "What is wrong with you, child? Why do you behave like this? Why are you not like your brother or someone from school? And what is wrong with you?" They insist that something's wrong with the child, and the child feels even more different and even more alone, and they avoid going places where trauma happened. They avoid talking about this and sharing with parents, and they can go into risk-taking behaviors, or developing eating disorders, using and abusing drugs, or engage in um, self-harming behavior. So, a good way of turning this around, what is wrong with you, should be, what happened to you? You should ask yourself, what happened to my child? Because my child is changed. His behavior is changed. My child is no longer smiling, doesn't have happiness, doesn't play like it used to. So yeah, I have listened very carefully about when you said, Barb, that you have mentioned the emotion of anger. And when, people experience something like this, they don't have power, they don't have control, they're hopeless, and they feel a lot of anger. You and I, as therapists, know that the underlying emotion behind this anger is pain. And it's much easier for everyone in this terrible situation to feel angry than to feel pain and talk about the pain. But the point is that you shouldn't talk about the pain constantly. You should do something with it. Go to therapy, seek for professional help. And this is very important for parents too, because if they feel anxiety and stress and constant fear, outgoing fear about the safety of their kids, they should both go to family therapy and use different techniques like grounding technique, because when you tell your child to focus on the outside world and tell you how many blue colors, how many blue objects can he name in the room, or purple or yellow, then you can ask them what they smell in the room, and what they hear, what are the sounds in the room, but also tell them to close their eyes and take a deep breath in, and to start feeling the world around them, the world where is safe. And if it's, they can imagine, what is the safe place? Is it grandma's home, for example? If it's grandma's home, if it's your home, then you should tell them, imagine you're in grandma's home, and imagine how many beautiful feelings she gives you when she prepares your favorite meal. And this is how you just use this grounding technique to reduce the anxiety and fear, and help your child feel better immediately, because they're not going to be focused on their thoughts, the chaos, the anxiety. they will be focused on the outside world instead of the inside feelings, and you can help them feel calm and feel more safe. You can also tell them to remember of the times when the world was a safe place, and that this world will also give them a safe place, and they will be saved from if another crisis happens. And you can tell them they do have a guardian angel, and they can use their superpowers of their mind. You can also introduce some character like Superman. Everybody knows about Superman, and you can tell them that this character uses the power of his mind to have the superpowers to save himself, to save everyone. And children love characters, love to identify with superpower heroes. You should be creative, and if it's difficult for you, you can always uh, find a good therapist to help you set the goals and strategies to helping your child.
And I think that it's very important for community work together, because when first of all, not everybody parents will be capable to do so, because if the parents dealing with their own trauma, unresolved even before some crisis, and they already are living in survival mode, they can be extremely triggered, and they can become trigger for their children, or actually become the additional source of survival mode for their children. And so if they're living in own trauma response, they probably will not be capable to react to the needs of the children. So I think that is very important for community to look out for children of parents like that. If it's the teachers, if it's the pupil support, if it's the social workers, or if it's the neighbors, if it's some other member of the family, and realizing that, yes, it is responsibility of parents, but if their parents are not fully capable adults in emotional and mental capacity to help them, there should be some other parents, other adults would to step in to some level and help the children to process it. So it's really important not to forget that children are everybody's, they are our future, and we need to kind of cooperate on raising them up. But as you mentioned, this grounding technique, which is about the connection to our sensors, to our senses, then it's also important to process this sensory memories which we have from this crisis moments. And that is often overlooking part. You would probably read a lot of advices which is about recognize the triggers and try to avoid them. That's not working. That's not working because that's just mean that we actually deepening the trauma, we deepening that feeling of unsafe, and we confirm for the child that all this is unsafe, every sound which is related to that, every smell which is related to that. So that is the which is called going exposure therapy. That's the one option. So then we can, in the small amount, start to expose child to the same environment or smells or sounds, and in the safe environment, link these sensory inputs with the safe moments. That's one option, and that can be used when they need to revisit the places of where the crisis happen, when some attacks happen, stuff like that. It shouldn't be forced. It shouldn't be a long way on the first time. So it's a process of realization that past and presence are not in the same time. That place itself, it's not dangerous, that what's happened there, or the person who was present there is dangerous, that it's not that place, it's not that sound, it's not that smell. Or it's actually good to again try to encourage children to identify these memories, because what we are not often realizing that our mind processing about 2,000 inputs every second. Yeah, so a lot of people would remember from even it happened, how it smelled, how what they taste in the mouth, how if there was temperature there, what the sounds was around, and more we allow children to express that verbally and written in dramatization, or then more is helping them to process that and separate that from that event, and just realize that's common thing. This smell of fish doesn't mean that I'm drowning. The sound of bum or something doesn't mean it's somebody shouting or something, somebody shooting. So it's important to connect that. So and I would again want to stress, if your child actually does develop trauma responses, which is mean that will be startled with the sounds, or will start showing the signs of the high anxiety if and some noises or smells or touch, then it's really important to seek therapy for the child. But I would really recommend some therapy which working with subconscious mind or somatic responses, as is hypnotherapy, RTT therapy, or somatic techniques, because in that time it's already developed traumatic responses. It's mean that the talking therapy itself would not work itself. The child didn't manage to verbalize it before, and it's get to that response. So it's need to be dealt with on different level. But if you actually allow the child in that first days and weeks after event to find these memories and acknowledge them, then they are able to kind of, like we say, like create a memory box. Yeah, and this is all which belongs to there, and they will stop relating it to the daily life. So it's kind of like creating the memory box of what's happened, which can be even in a way of encouraging of the photographs on things which can they touch, everything which is kind of related to that. So again, we are kind of back to the basics of speak about that, what's happened with their children. Let them find the words or expression of that, because then their mind is powerful, their mind is able to process it. We just need to encourage it. We just need to help them to find that way, and their mind will find where. Their mind want to be healthy. Their mind want to be then fully functional. And being in the survival mode is very exciting, very tiring for mind, for body. So when we give the mind the options how to release it, then mind will just jump for it. It's why that grounding technique or deep breathing working, because in that way we can even just tell children, just imagine that with every exhale, all that fear or anxiety or anger going out, and you breathing out like dragon the fire or red stem or something, and you just breathe it out. And mind would do that, because mind don't want it in body. Mind want it out because it's very heavy feeling. So and children have the great imagination, and all these suggestions you have a lot about, introduce some character which can help them. That's great advice, because they can relate to it. They can imagine what it's mean to be strong. They can imagine that it's not needed be all the time, because the superheroes are not all the time. Superman is great example with that, because it's kind of normal guy, is it? Like Clark, it's just normal guy living his life, and become Superman when it's needed. And the children need to realize the same, that they are children, they are normal, they are fine, but they are capable to protect themselves or react correctly in the moment when it will be needed, when they would be in some situation like that, but they don't have to be in that mode all the time. Also, I would recommend one more technique for parents, and it is token of safety, I would call it, which could be sound, which could be music, or it can be actually something what the child carry with them, and it's very effective technique for children if we will take something, if it's the necklace, if it's the bracelet, if it's the pin on their backpack, they can very strongly relate it to the subject as the token of that they are protected, and they can create that belief very easily, like if I have this, I am safe. And or it can be a lullaby which you sing to them in evening, or a music box which they would have that feeling that the parent is there. And maybe you will do it 10 days, and after that, if you will put it on, your child will just fall asleep because they'll feel safe. So it's also a technique which is really powerful, and they can apply it. And if we can encourage them, like when they're going out, for example, order the place of event, and we give them this token, something, and we can remind them, when they becoming agitated, for example, we can remind them, do you remember you have your necklace, you have your cross, you have your band, you have your pin, and so you are okay. Their mind will just switch back. It's called the make the trigger, and anybody can do that. You just special parents, that conviction from parents for children, it's very easy to program it. So you can just tell them, close your eyes and now put all your belief that it's safe to this thing, and then you have it with you. You will be always, I am with you. You are protected, and it's very powerful technique.
Yes, that's fantastic, Barb. Another fantastic tip about how we can encourage our kids when they leave home and go out in the streets, go to school, to feel safe, and to feel that they can also protect someone else. They can teach their friend, share a story, a tip that mom gave, or dad, or grandpa, and we can all be very creative about this. So we could just imagine to tell our children that they have this inner protector, and it is always there to help them in the crisis. And this voice in their head is there to remind them of their favorite nursery rhyme, or their favorite song, or their mother's voice, or this voice is there to tell them, imagine your toy box, and in your toy box are all your favorite things and smells, and the memories of home, and the memories of the people who gave this to you, who want you to feel safe everywhere, protected and strong. And when you encourage their imagination, they can maybe come up with something even more beautiful, and you can tell them, okay, you can pick that. That could be your protector, your inner voice. And as you mentioned, Barb, they can always wear bracelets and necklaces, or something that is very, very valuable or old, and that is going to make them feel protected. We can also tell our kids, okay, you can touch your finger and thumb, and you can feel instant strength, and you can feel that you're strong, because when we use our body and mind at the same time, we are reinforcing. Or we can tell them, just you can hug yourself. You can hug yourself at school when you feel scared, when kids are bullying you. You can be creative and tell your kids that they can always believe that there is an inner protector, inner force, that the inner voice to help them. And sometimes we tell children that they have an inner cheerleader, which is telling them, praising them, how smart they are, how safe and happy they're feeling, and that they're beautiful, wonderful, that they they deserve all the happiness in the world, that they are enough. And also, as you mentioned, Barb, with this sensory input, yeah, it's very interesting how when kids experience trauma, or anyone who experiences trauma, but for example, we're talking about the shooting in schools today, and when kids experience, the smell of blood, they hear the shooting, and then they also see something very harmful, they hear something horrible, and they also smell certain smells, and all these sensory goes into their brain to tell them that next time when they feel and hear and smell something like this, the same or similar, they're going to be triggered in order to turn on the alarm, the survival mode, and to keep them safe. And sometimes kids have trauma, post trauma, family trauma. They have trauma because they have encountered some mental health challenges or developmental disabilities that do affect their responses and reactions in the crisis. And the statistics say that over 60% of children experience traumatic event by the age of 16. And if they have experienced trauma previously throughout their life and they never had received any professional help, they probably have developed post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mhm.
But many traumas, different traumas happen, different traumatic experiences, not just a single experience. They can also develop complex PTSD, and you should be aware of the fact that the mental health of children is becoming even more complicated. It's more complicated for them to cope with reality, to cope with the challenges of the development, and to learn and to process their emotions. So kids do need to have a different approach because they're very vulnerable category of people, population. And as you mentioned, Barb, hypnotherapy is excellent way of doing therapy because we can access their subconscious mind, and the subconscious like a sponge. It is absorbing everything, every emotion, every experience, every feeling, every thought that we have created in our lives. And when we can access this sponge, we can access their entire life. It's amazing how we can find surprising things about the meanings and interpretations of trauma
Mhm.
or of bullying, uh, of anything they have experienced, like racial discrimination, or discriminated because of their weight, or discriminated of how they look, and also bullied, and when we can access their subconscious mind, we can help them more quickly to get the permanent results and to remove the cause and the root of the issue. Because in our therapy, we both work with causes, with the root of the problem. We don't work with symptoms. We don't mask the symptoms just to help them feel relief short term. We're trying to help them to have long-term results, to recover, because when kids are recovering, the parents, the whole family is recovering, the whole community, the society, the nation. And we must start from this small unit, the nucleus of society, the family. And even if parents are working too much every day and trying, to meet the needs of their children that are very specific and unique, they often don't have time to just sit down and talk for half an hour a day. And if you could find 30 minutes every day to talk to your child, to ask them how they feel, to really give them this feeling of love and connection, and that they belong somewhere. They need to belong. Um, you're going to create long-term better mental health for the entire family, better interaction, and instead of avoiding each other and letting your child be isolated in the bedroom and alone, they're gonna even feel more worse because children do tend to avoid being open to their parents. They're going to tell about their deepest feelings to their friends at school, but they will not be open to their parents because they're afraid of punishment. They're afraid of being rejected, and it's very painful. That's why you need to create this feeling that you're constantly interested in their lives, that you're present there, that you want your child alive, and so you can feel more connected and more strong when you are interacting in a loving way, in a warm way, and yes. Okay, Barb, I wanted to ask you what are the normal reactions during and following a traumatic event? What is normal? What can we expect when we hear about the trauma happened, and what should we consider that is absolutely normal?
Totally normal will be that child will be tired after that. Would be kind of feel don't want to speak about that, but it's about that because they don't know in that moment how to kind of verbalize it, because they are just overwhelmed, that the brain is overwhelmed, so it's really hard for them to verbalize how they feel. They would express the feeling that they want to be close to somebody, they would want to be hugged, they would want to hold. So it's important to provide it, be with their presence, or use, cuddle up in the blanket, because it's not just that feeling of being close with somebody, but also that sensory calming. So like it's why paramedics would always put the blanket over somebody, because it's kind of like create a cocoon, it's kind of safe place. So and there can be natural reactions, would of course crying, or we said, also be angry and expressing in that. Then can be feeling they don't want to eat because it's just the body, it's exhausted really. So don't force them eat. It's about something sweet and fat. So even something which you would normally, you can maybe count as unhealthy, that's just fine, because they just need something which will be comforting and which will give them energy, because the body is up and mind. Our brain is the organ in the body which using the most of the sugar we have, and that if processing so hard, which is during traumatic events and after, they actually need the sugar. So even if they're refusing to eat, or allow them, offer them or make them eat something sweet, and with the fat. So if it will be hot cocoa or semolina porridge, something which will make them feel cared for, but it's not hard to digest. And I think that's a very natural reaction, is try to not go out in first moment, try to find that safe place. And if it's in their bedroom, if it's in the living room, it's wherever it is, it's important to allow them to find that feeling of the safe, and for sure calm with them, be more present with them. Very good techniques for it. It's calling cuddle time, and it's about it really like be with the child in, hugging them and on sofa or in their bed, which allow them to actually calm down physical body, calm down the mind, and it's they getting to that mode that they can start processing and verbalizing, and just let them, encourage them to do so. And when it's it's actually great to have it as a daily habit, all the time, because it's a time when they will feel that they have this undivided attention, and so they can be more quiet, they can be more angry and outburst, but important is not to punish them or not to telling them what's wrong with them or what's weird with them, but say, okay, let's be angry, okay, let's be sad, I'm seeing you, I hearing you, I acknowledging your feelings. And when we do that, it's that phase is no long, because it's a grieving process for everybody, and for children, that grieving of innocence, of they lost that innocence of childhood, of carelessness, and that, and so there will be the denial, anger, until acceptance, and we need to allow them to do that. And it's important to realize that they're growing, and encourage them to that, because often also reaction, it's becoming smaller, like kind of start acting as the younger age, start acting smaller, and because it's that desire to be protected, it's that memory of when I was smaller, I was protected by parents, I was carried in the baby carrier, and that was great because I was safe. So it's important to encourage them to realize their age, and really show them how amazing that they are at that age, and how powerful they are in that age, and what actually allowing to be that age, what it means. So sometimes it's about saying, okay, sometimes you would even ask them, and they would say that they are smaller, or encourage them proudly, say, oh, I am 7, I am 13, but sometimes they would say, oh, I would like to be 6, or I would like to be 4, because that was, I feel safer in that time. So it's important to realize that these reactions are that desire to feel safe, and find a way to provide it, and realize that they can feel safe, that they can, that just because they are the age they are, it's not different. It's if it's the right way done, it's easier not to develop a trauma response for younger children, because their brain have a huge neuroplasticity and can adapt very easily. We allow them to express that emotions, if we allow them to process that and reconnect with the inner strengths, then they don't have to develop trauma responses. It's trickier with the teenagers, in the way that they often already the disconnect of trust with the parents to sharing their emotion with the parents, and that expectation, what the reaction would be, like I would be told that I am weak, or I would be told that I should be brave, I would be told that I should just suck it up, or I would be told that I should, and they are able to create like thousands should in their mind. Why they not? But that's actually make it worse. That deepening that issue, and they often destroy themselves. So that is really important to realize that, and work on the change, work on that, find that connection, and that it's really important about it, admitting that own feelings, because especially in that age 12 and higher, they would see the parents as they who cope, as they strong, and that, and they would have feeling that they're failing. They would have feeling I should be strong as them. I should be so composed as they are. So on one side, be composed and be that safe space for them to some level. It's useful, and it needs to be in that first moment, understand me. But then it's actually really important to explain them that we as adults are also scared. That being brave and courageous doesn't mean lack of fear. That it's just willingness to face it, and to allow them to realize that they still have the right to feel scared, that we also feel scared, and that's that's natural reactions are tiredness, silence, distance, this way of allowing space to process. So give attention, but not too much also, like not force child to do something or not force them to activities they don't want to do, because it just means that they will start shutting out even more. So, yeah.
Yes. And parents should also be aware that after traumatic events, children feel a lot of stress, and they can be clingy to adults. They can be very, very scared to be away from their parents. They can also feel the anxiety of separation from their parents, and they don't want their parents to go anywhere without them, to go to work. And many parents do give up their work to stay home and be with their kids, and to just help them and take care of them, and take care of their needs. And as you said, Barb, there is a scale of grieving, now to acceptance, and it is a process, and the time will not heal the wounds, but the kids will learn, as the adults do, that they're just going to accept and live with it for the rest of their lives. But as you mentioned, neuroplasticity is a fantastic uh, science tool that helps brain to create new neural pathways. And with the power of repetition, the brain can learn that world can be a happy place, a safe place, that kids could grow up and have a happy home and a happy family, and they will get married one day, have a great job, they will make their dreams come true. And when you repeat that to your kids many, many times, it will like a song they learn, or something, material for school. Their brain will start to react differently because of the new neural pathways, new ways of thinking, and your child will start behaving differently because it expects to find connections, to find friends, to fall in love one day, and to go out and go to university and find a job, because they do eventually need to grow up and leave their own. You can't just expect your children to stay clingy and rely on you as a parent. Um, so repeatedly talking about uh, positive and good life and good expectations in future, and that reinforcing the idea that this child will always have you, will always have one person that gives you the feeling of belonging, connection, love, safety, is enough. Even if you're just a single parent, and even if your child only has you, if it doesn't have grandparents or father, if the child has only one person who really, really loves them, who is always there for them, it is enough to help them feel safe and give them a good foundation for future. And sometimes kids, just like parents or teachers at school, after the shootings happen, have this feeling that they they didn't have a chance to say goodbye, or they didn't have a chance to tell them how much they love them and how much they mean to them. And it can be very painful, but there is a way out of this feeling. You don't have to feel like you are a prisoner of this feeling for the rest of your life, helpless, and feeling so powerless, because you will never have this closure. With the help of therapy, you can go through all 5 stages of grieving and loss, and you can really have a lot of improvement with the power of rapid transformation therapy and hypnosis, because it's creating really great results. Sometimes the results are immediate, and sometimes you need to wait a certain period of time to see the first results, depending on the issue. But as you said, Barb, talk therapy and accessing the problem from the cognitive perspective is going to require a lot of session, a lot of time, and for immediate help and releasing the anger and pain and the feelings of hopelessness and powerlessness and despair. There is a lot of despair. The best thing is to access the subconscious mind, and it's really safe. Um, and you can expect just to be relaxed, incredibly relaxed, and feeling that you're going to sleep. So sometimes people have, very strange expectations about hypnosis and what is going to happen in the therapy session. But therapists have to explain them what can they expect, manage their expectations, and not be scared of this at all. And do you have some good points that you would like to share about this?
Yeah, I think that this will be a topic of our next episode, because when I will start speaking, we will probably speak other hour. And I think that it's very important, and we will get to it the next week, and about that grieving process and how different that grieving process is after sudden feelings, and how it's actually different about grieving the children, which is that hardest part of it, and how different way grieving the children, teenagers and adults, because we all have different ways of processing the bereavement, and also kind of explain really the difference between bereavement, which is the natural process of mourning, and grief when it's stuck in some moment and we need help to move forward. So we will get back to it in the next episode, when we will spend time on it, because I think that it's a very important topic related to this crisis moments and violent events which affecting the whole community, and how to get to that closure, or how to move forward in their life, how not get stuck in that grief, and what challenges it, and what techniques we can use to do so. But I would just want to say, on kind of the closure of this episode, that it's really important for everybody who working with the children affected by even tragic events or violent events, to realize how hard it is for them to cope, what they're going through, and how their mind can be overwhelmed, and how they can switch to the survival mode. So it can affect their focus and concentration in school. It can affect their ability to learn new things and creating the new memories. It can affect their ability to express and recall. So it's really important to acknowledge that and adapt education to that, because more pressure, it's just make it more worse. They will just start feeling that they're failing, stuff like that. But it's possible to help them to release it. So we will speak about that next week and in some following episode. But also for any therapists, coaches, teachers, or parents, which is interesting to learn how to work with those who develop complex PTSD, which can be a result of events like that. I will running the course in the end of the June, which is calling Complex PTSD for coaches and therapists. And so you can join the course and get a really deep comprehensive thought about how to work and help people to recover from these events ongoing or single events, and how it's affecting development and how we can help them. Because I think that is really important for everybody to know that it is possible. It's really important to realize that children doesn't have to necessarily develop the trauma responses if we will give them what they need in that moment, that it's possible to recover, and sooner we will start reacting to triggers or anxiety or change in the sleep patterns, and realizing the connections easier we can help them and not make them suffer. That having triggers, it's not excuse, it's a warning. It's not supposed to be that we're supposed to bubble wrap them or put the cotton balls around them. It's mean that we need to help them, and we need to help them to process the trauma. And it's possible with therapies. It's possible with different techniques, and encouraging them that they are strong, that they can reconnect with their inner strengths, and they can cope and learn the new coping skills. So I want to thank you, Lela, for being here with me and talking about this very important topic. And I hope that people will find it helpful. And if you would want to be notified about our next episode, please follow and like. I would ask people, if you like it, please like, so more people will get it, see by search what's working that way, that if somebody like it, that other people will see it. And if you feel that it was useful and you learned something from it, and we will looking to see you in the next week. So what will be your closing words, Lela, for our today's episode?
Well, I would love to say that we would all need to believe that miracles are possible, and they're happening every day. And we probably have some beautiful story about survival and how we can help others feel hopeful and feel very excited about their recovery journey. And we should definitely encourage people to go through therapy and not judge anybody. And I'm really, really excited for our next episode, because we will cover many, many interesting aspects of experiencing trauma. And thank you so much, Barb, for this amazing opportunity to create, I think, one of the most important episodes we have created so far. And I'm very excited for your course, and I know it's going to be phenomenal. And I would love to mention in the next episode a little more about this, to just give people a little intriguing feeling about what would they learn and achieve. And I know it's going to be amazing. Thank you, Barb.
You're welcome. So thank you, everybody, for listening to us. If you have any questions, you can contact us on website Way Out of Trauma, podbean.com, or you can find us on the Facebook. I'm Barb Smith Varclova, or Your Step Counseling, or Danijela Mrdak from Mind Freedom Therapy. So if you want to any help or you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us. We are happy to help or give advice and topic related to the trauma and childhood trauma especially. So thank you very much, everybody, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.